So this video is on our notes that you're going to put in your composition book. If you don't have your composition book, just put it on a piece of paper and you can always add it in later. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be writing equation of an exponential function. Now I'm going to go through a couple of easy examples and I'm going to go through a couple that are harder. So when we're doing this, what you want to remember is that the equation that we are dealing with, let me just get a little, is going to be y equal a times b to the power x. And your a is your y-intercept, and the b is what you are multiplying by. Okay, it's your multiplier. Okay, so that is kind of our format that we want for these. And here, I'm just going to move this down. Okay. So when we're doing this, a couple of examples. Let's start off with, we're going to do a graph. Okay. So for our graph, let's say for example 1, okay, we are going to do an L-shaped graph. I'm going to actually use a line since having trouble drawing straight there. Okay. Okay. And for this, we have a point at, let's say, right here at 0, 1. And let's say we have a second point at 1, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 6. And remember that we always have an asymptote here for these, always, always. On our y-axis. And that equation is going to be y equal 0. And then let me draw my graph in. Okay, there's our graph. So if we're trying to find the equation of this, the very first thing you want to pay attention to is that y-intercept. So you know it's going to be y equal 1 times our b to the power x. Now, a couple ways you can do this. You can substitute in, but I think in this one, if you kind of pay attention to where you are, we're at a height of 1, and then we're at a height of 6. So what am I multiplying? I'm going to multiply by 6. So this is going to be y equal 1 times 6 to the power x. Now, when you have 1 in front, you really don't need to write the 1, so you can clean this up if you want to. Y is equal to 6 to the power x. Now, let's do a second one like this. Let's say, for example, 2. Again, let me draw my graph. Let's say that we have a point at -1, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a point at -1, 4. And let's say we have a point also at 0, 1. Now, again, with this asymptote is going to be at y equal 0. So again, this is going to be y equals 0. And then we're going to draw the graph. And so when I draw this graph, there we go. And we want to write the equation of it. So when we do write the equation of it, this point right here is our y-intercept, which is at 0, 1. So that means it's going to be 1 times b to the power x. Now, when we're looking at this, we want to look and see, hey, what's happening here? What are we multiplying by, if you can notice? Now, what's happening is I was up at a height of 4, and now I'm down at a height of 1. So I'm really dividing by 4, but we don't like to say divide by 4. We change it to multiplying by the reciprocal, and the reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. So our equation is going to be y equal 1 times 1/4 to the power x, which can clean up to, because 1 times anything is just going to be that thing. So it's going to be y equal 1/4 to the power x. And that's our equation. So now let's try one that maybe our y-intercept is not at 1. Okay. So let's say, for example, we have a graph. I'll just draw my graph. And let's say that we have a point at 0, 2. So 0, 2. And we have a point at 1, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have a point at 1, 6. And again, we have our asymptote always on our x-axis, I apologize, which is y equals 0. And when I draw this in, here is going to be our graph. Now, since we have a point right here at 0, 2, that means my a is going to be 2. So I know it's going to be 2 times b to the power x. And now when we're looking at this, we can say, okay, I'm at 2 and now I'm at 6. What am I multiplying by? Well, to get from 2 to 6, I multiply by 3. So our equation is going to be y equal 2 times 3 to the power x. That's going to be our equation. Now, let's say we have one that is like this. Oops. Okay, and let me draw my asymptote in. Again, at y equals 0. And let's say we have a point at 0, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have one at 0, 8. And let's say our next one is down at 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, so here's my graph. Again, we want to find our a, and our a is 8, because that's where our y-intercept is. So it's going to be y equal 8 times b to the power x. And then I want to look and say, okay, what's happening from that point to this point? So this one's up at 8. This one's down at 2. What am I doing? I am dividing by 4, but remember, instead of divide, think about multiplying by the reciprocal. So reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. So this is going to be y equal 8 times 1/4 to the power x. Now, the next situation is going to be where it is going to be a little bit more difficult, where it's maybe spread out. So let's try one like that. Okay, So let's say for this example, okay, example 5, we have the following graph. Again, asymptote here on the x-axis at y equals 0. And let's say we have a point at 0, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 0, 3. And I'm going to give us one that we can't really tell the point very well, or what we're multiplying by very well. So let's say we're at 4 comma. So I'm going to go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, and it's going to be 4 comma 4.3923. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4-ish. So that point is 4 comma 4.3923. Okay, that's kind of a yucky point. Okay, but we should still be able to figure it out. So we have our graph. Okay, we still need to figure out our A. Our A is 3 because this is at a height of 3. So I am going to go y equal 3 times b to the power x. Now this time I can't really tell what my b is. So I have to use this other point, okay, this point right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that point in for my x and my y into this equation. So I'm going to go 4.3923 is equal to 3 times b to the power x, and my x is a 4. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Okay, I'm going to divide this by 3. I'm going to divide this by 3. Now, when I do that on my calculator, 4.3923, whoops, 4.3923 divided by 3, I end up with a 1.4641. Still doesn't look very pretty. Is equal to b to the 4th. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 4th root of both sides. Okay, so I'm going to take the 4th root of 1.4641, and I'm going to take the 4th root of the other side, which gives me a b. So I'm going to put that into my calculator. Okay, let me get my Desmos up. So right now I have scientific calculator Desmos, which they have. Right here is our nth root. So we want to take the 4th root. So I'm going to put the 4th root of 1.4641. And I actually got something nice. I got a 1.1. Got a 1.1. So this is going to be a 1.1 is equal to b. So our final equation, y is equal to 3 times 1.1 to the power x. Okay. And that's how some of the ones you're going to see today are going to be, where maybe you have to try to figure out your multiplier and you can't tell by looking at it. Let me just do one more. I'm going to add one more on here for us. So let's say, for example, we have the following. And for this one, this is going to be a rough sketch. Okay, so I'm really not going to use the graph paper. For this, because these points are going to be really big. Okay. So I still have my asymptote, still have it at y equals 0. I'm going to put in some points. Again, ignore the x and y axis right now. Well, let's say this, ignore the y axis. So I'm going to have a point at 0, 64. So let's just say that this point here is 0, 64. And then let's say I have another point at 6, 729. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm just going to go as high as I can. Let's say up to, so lost my spot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say I go up to here, and let's say that this is 6,729. And then we have our graph. Okay, I'm not drawing this accurately by any means. So if we have a situation like this, maybe you can't figure out what we're multiplying 64 by to get to 729, especially when we have a gap of 6. So first thing you want to do is identify your A. So I know that this is going to be y equals 64 times b to the power x. Then I'm going to use this other point, this point right here, for my x and my y. So I'm going to put in 729 is equal to 64 times b to the power 6. I'm going to divide both sides by 64. And when I divide both sides by 64, 729 divided by 64 is, I'm going to write the whole thing out, 11.390625. If you don't write out the whole thing, keep it as a fraction. That way you are accurate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 6th root, because it was a 6th power, of 11.390625 to get my b. So when I do that, let me just move this out here. Clear this. So I'm going to take the 6th root of 11.390625. I actually get a nice thing. I get a 1.5. So my b is a 1.5. So this equation is y equals 64 times 1.5 to the power x. And that's the end of these notes. And then now you can get started on your classwork.